Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been before.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the
Again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is directed by James Gunn and is the second outing of the Guardians of the Galaxy, starring Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, Dave Bautista as Drax, Bradley Cooper as the voice of Rocket, and Vin Diesel as Baby Groot this time. And it's the story, and we see the plot basically kick off from where we left them in the first film, where they end up leading a life of a little bit of crime and a little bit of hero work, and sometimes they mix, and they throw in the added wrinkle of Star-Lord meeting his long-lost father, played by Kurt Russell. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, as well as certain other plot-related spoilers from a couple other films as well. There will be a full list in the description below. And if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 yet, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. But with these things in mind, though, let's begin. So as I said, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 basically follows the same formula as the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where we see our heroes fighting to stay together as a team. They have their own personal issues, and they're pursued by random, various amounts of criminals and enemies. And during all this, they end up crashing on an alien planet where they end up meeting Star-Lord's dad, played by Kurt Russell, and Peter Quill learns that that his father is something very unknown to everyone else, and he's a very powerful being, but as usual with these sorts of things, not all is what it seems. Now, there are some obvious parallels with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 to some other movies, so let's start with the obvious ones and go from there. First, and while I'm not the first to point this out, it has to be said that Guardians of the Galaxy as a whole is very similar to Serenity and Firefly, in that they both feature a ragtag band of mercenaries who do criminal activities, but they have a pure heart, and they end up doing hero work as well. And this shows up in a lot of different ways, especially in Serenity, in which the ship ends up crashing. They end up learning things about their crew members, family members, and the finale involves a certain ex machina of a large space battle featuring the enemy fleet coming out of nowhere, who ends up becoming an important part of the hero work as well. Next, since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is more of a character-driven film than the previous film, I'd say there are some definite character similarities with films that have come before. The first one would be Drax, played by Dave Bautista, and in the first film, we see he is introduced as a character who is basically a badass warrior who is funny because he doesn't understand metaphor, and because of this, he ends up blurting out things that may not be appropriate for the situation, and it's all a bunch of misunderstandings based on his lack of understanding of metaphors. Now, in the second film, I feel like they kind of changed that around a bit, whereas they kind of ditched his lack of knowing a metaphor, and now he's just kind of a jerk who says things that are inappropriate anyway just to get a laugh. Now, this may seem very familiar to people who saw Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and the character of K2SO, whose main personality trait was basically blurting out things that were very inappropriate at the time, or being very blunt in certain instances, and these things were very funny in the movie. Now, is it a coincidence that both Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Rogue One were produced by Disney? I'll let you be the judge of that one. Next, as far as another character who progresses significantly in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 would be the character of Yondu, played by Michael Rooker. Now, in the first film, he was very much a supporting character who is really not developed all that much, and he really kind of plays the role of the bad guy who kind of turns around in the end, and his participation plays a role in the ultimate defeat of the bad guy. And in the second film, he does do a lot of that, but we get very deep into his character development as well, and we get some much-needed backstory on his relationship between himself and Peter Quill. And in previous films, it has been established that he really didn't treat him all that well, and he threatened to eat him on several occasions, but now we see some significant development, and we have some significant character motivations on Yondu's part, to the point where it is actually portrayed that he actually really cared for Peter Quill as a child, and he basically raised him and became his father more than his biological father, Kurt Russell, in this instance, it has become. Now, this is very similar to a certain character reveal that is seen in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, in which the character of Snape, who throughout the entire run of the Harry Potter franchise has been seen as a hard character, who's very hard on Harry in particular, and he hates him because of what his father did to him as when Snape was a young man. So in the end of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, we see that that Snape is actually very caring of Harry, and we get to review these events through a flashback in The Pensive, where we see that Snape still holds a love for Lily, and he is tasked with carrying over Harry as a child and looking after him on the orders of Dumbledore, but he actually really does care for Harry because of his mother. Again, it's very similar to what happened with Yondu, because, as we said, it's very... Yondu was seen as this very hard character who didn't really like Peter as a son, but as revealed later that he actually was kind of a father figure, and his passing was very emotional. And it was very powerful in the film as well, as was Snape's reveal in Deathly Hallows Part 2. Finally, this film also shares a very similar character development trope that shows up in a lot of different movies and TV series, where in the finale we see Kurt Russell's character, Ego, better known in the comics as Ego the Living Planet. It is revealed that he is indeed a living planet, and he has very evil intentions for the universe, and he didn't really love Peter that much, and Peter ends up rejecting Ego as his biological father and ends up defeating him. Now, this is very similar to both a movie and a TV show in recent memory. The movie, first, I would say it bears some similarities with Jumper, starring Hayden Christensen, in which Hayden Christensen's character is shown to have these amazing abilities that he didn't know he had before, and by the film's end, it's revealed that his mother is actually a member of this evil organization that is bent on destroying his kind. But and the movie ends on the note that Hayden Christensen's mother, character's mother, is set out to hunt him, but he still kind of loves him. There's this interesting dynamic between them, so there's another interesting relationship there. And in the TV series, I would point you towards the NBC series Timeless, in which our main character's mother and father are both revealed by the end of the first season to be agents of Rittenhouse, which is a unseen evil force that winds its way through all of American history. And she didn't know this at the time going through it, but she learns about her father first being a part of Rittenhouse, but in the season finale, we learn that her mother, too, is part of Rittenhouse, and she has to fight to defeat Rittenhouse as well. But that, of course, brings up other conflicts, but there you go. That's another interesting character development. It's been seen in a bunch of other films as well, but those are the two ready instances of comparison between Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2's main finale plot twist and those other films. So there you have it. Those are the main points of comparison between Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 and what's come before. But does that mean you should not see this film? No, I would say you should definitely see this film, even if you're not really all that big into the Marvel franchise. So the great appeal of the first Guardians of the Galaxy film was that it didn't necessarily tie into well, I mean, it did tie into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you didn't have to know everything going into it in order to enjoy it. It was a very straightforward, fun, space action film with a great comedy as well. And they did do that same in Volume 2 as well. It's another great action film, and even if you hadn't seen the first one, to be honest, you could really pretty much know what's going on. And you can really get some great character motivations as well. That's another great difference between these two. As I said, the first film was very action-driven, comedy-driven, whereas the second film is more character-driven and has more emotion in it, and ties in very well near the end. And I gotta say, I got kind of choked up at the end, which is not what I would expect, but I really enjoyed it. So I would say definitely go see this film. Definitely pay full price to see it. It is definitely worth it. Though, if you think of going into it that's going to be better than the first one, I would say no, but it's still a great movie to see anyway. So, that's my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I get. Coming up, I would look for my review of Alien vs. Predator, one of my favorites, and it'll be between now and the release of Alien Covenant on May 19th. So, there you have it. That's what's coming up. And just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before. So, until next time, thank you for watching.